Hey friends, Tony here with the first day of a long anticipated build of the bed in the van. This is the last large item that I'll be building in terms of furniture in the van. So I'm excited for this day today. But first, before I actually start framing out that build, I'll be making a track saw guide for my circular saw. And I found this idea on a website. I think I maybe mentioned it in another video. 1 Minute Workbench. So today I'm going to try that technique, and I'll try and explain it as best as I can. But he's a great reference if you want to watch that. Maybe I'll put a link somewhere down there or whatever, so you can also reference that as well too. Well, let me just describe the process here. So what I did was I bought this is. It's 4 feet by, looks like 3 feet by 4 feet. I think it's like a craft piece of wood. It's got a nice factory edge on it, which is very important when you're making this guide, because you want a straight edge. If your edge is off, everything you cut is going to be crooked. So this has got a nice factory edge on it, which is where I'll be starting my cuts, or referencing my cuts for today. So I'm looking forward to trying out this new technique, and we'll see how it goes. First order of business is to make sure your blade is square. Looks good. Ready for the next step. Now we'll mark off a few inches here. For our first cut.
So this first cut is going to be about, say, actually 5 to 6 inches. So this is the rail, the guide rails for the actual track that I'm cutting right now. And what you see I'm doing here is I've got like a carpenter's crayon. It's red. I'm filling in the edge, which is the factory edge, so I can denote that for future reference as I go. Okay, once again, that is the factory edge and that is the fresh cut edge. Keep in mind that again, the factory edge is going to be on the inside of the track so we can get the straightest cut possible. So now what we're doing here is we're preparing for this cut of the second rail. So as you see, we're using the factory edge to set up and make this cut. So we do have a straight cut for that second rail coming up here. So here I'm making sure that I make every effort to make sure that this next cut for the second portion of the rail is as straight as possible. What you'll see coming up here is once I have the C-clamps in place and I've secured my reference board down, I'm going to make my marks here to notate that that is the rough edge there. So instead of coloring it in full, I'm just doing lines here to notate the rough edge, which is going to go on the outside of the rail once I assemble it. So once again, now that we've made our cut, that is a rough edge. We're not going to use that. That is a straight edge, which we're going to use on the inside of our rail. So once again, just demonstrating that that is the straightest edge possible, which is going on the inside of the rail. And now I'm preparing to mount these down by first of all gluing with some wood glue, and then I'm going to drill some pilot holes and then adhere it to the board with some screws. Okay, before we nail down our final piece of track, just making sure our tolerances are tight so it's not too sloppy, but we don't want it too tight. Thus, I'm using a folded piece of paper to get approximately 1 millimeter of space between the saw and the track itself.
I love it.
So at this point, I'm creating what will be the track line for the track saw guide. And just start in simple plunge cut. Don't want to go too far because I'll actually cut the board in half. We don't want that. Eventually I will place some boards or some pieces of wood on the end, both ends, so I don't cut too far when I'm making my cuts. And right now I'm preparing to cut off the excess of the track that I do not need. Here's where I'm preparing for that blocking of the end, and this is the wood that I've chosen to cut up to create my edging for blocking the saw from cutting through my newly created track saw guide. So here I'm using a 1-inch hole bit to create what will be my sight holes so I can actually see the reference line of the cut I'm making through the track saw guide. So what I'm doing here is I'm flipping it over to finish my holes on the other side. I just kind of did a half drill on one side. And I think the whole concept here is to prevent splitting of the wood by drilling through on one side only. So just finalizing that right now. And now we're preparing to make one final pass with the saw blade through the track guide.
Battery's going. There you have it, folks. My circular saw track guide. Frankenstein's monster in comparison to Tommy from the 1 Minute Workbench. But hey, it works. So I'm happy with that. Off to building this bed. Piece, actually, the last large piece that I'll be building for the bed. But, hey friends, Tony here with a day of long anticipated with bed build. Bed build for the band. Day 1, take 6.